very kind and calm, and and all that stuff. Let's see, where's Laser Snipe? It's down here. Snipe, that's not how you split probes. Jesus Christ.
God, look at this. Well, game's over, dude. Like, how are you even gonna cover from that kind of ridiculous
Okay,
start?
it's not over. It's just really bad probe split.
Anyways, in the bottom right-hand corner, starring as the brown Protoss, we got the man, the admin of the CPL tournament, and just the hugest disappointment to Team Supply Block. We have Laser Snipe.
Don't say that. Like, if you're joking, like, it's fun to joke about that stuff, but then it's like, oh, I actually did fail. It's like if you joke about something on
Yeah,
passionate, like,
if he loses, that would be really bad. Yeah, you're right.
I actually do have cancer. And you're like, wait, what?
And the hugest disappointment to his mother. I've struggled with that for a really long time, so thank you for opening those old wounds up. I remember one time I joked around saying something. Well, I think also Americans are specifically pretty abrasive when it comes to their friendships and stuff. I said something to Kix, and he started to feel really bad, and I was like, "Oh, my bad, dude. That's not what I meant." It's just how males bond out here in America. We're just really huge dicks to each other.
And in Australia.
Yeah.
You fucking
They're right
cunt.
cunts to their mates, eh?
So Herbmon has been hype on this guy.
Which guy?
Do you know that
Neblime?
Turkey has a ban on kissing in films. That doesn't surprise me, but even though Turkey is a quote-unquote secular government, it's still very much under the influence of, you know,
Why is
I want to say,
you wouldn't, bro. My record's too good. Supply Block needs me.
need you to get them wins.
I need to compensate
Neblime is
for
the
some
guy that
underperforming Protoss players.
Herbmon's been all up on his nuts. So, we'll see.
Herbmon definitely has an eye for quality.
Well, this guy has been... Apparently, he's been making some big strides, and... by the way, this wall is the correct wall. That is probe-proof.
Wunderbar. Looks good.
It's also zealot-proof, obviously. If something's probe-proof,
Oh, yeah.
it's definitely zealot-proof. But
I forgot you weirdos produce. You guys pronounce the silent H. Herbmon. Herb. It's a herb.
Dude,
But you guys are
I
also the
say
same fucking people that say
herb.
Jaguar. No, I'm talking to Cadenza.
The Jaguar.
That drives me nuts.
the-
Whenever I hear Jaguar commercials, they're like, Jaguar. It's just like, oh my god,
People
please
in
don't.
the UK, the word is literally, but they say literally.
Aluminium. And they spell the word color with a U. Weirdos.
That's fine. That's fine. But
Color.
literally, it's not literally, it's literally. That's how it's
As
spelled.
in, I literally can't.
You're like reversing the position of two consonants. You can't do that. You can't do that. You're breaking the rules.
Jaguar.
Probe is actually blocking his own Dragoons from getting up the ramp. Oh my god, Laser Snipe, you're so disappointing.
I don't think he wants to get up the ramp, though. I think he wants to be just
Yeah,
poking.
he does.
Well, I mean, like, obviously he should want to. I'm saying that he's bad.
He should want it. Like,
And Yeah.
should
No,
want
I do agree though. He could have easily picked off that Marine, and then been up
Well,
there and
the
been
reason,
done.
okay, so here's what my reasoning, because when they're on the low ground, they are gonna miss half their shots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I
So,
mean, he's not doing as much damage as he could have potentially done. You know, could have forced repairs, a lot more repairing having to be done on um, these depots, and then consequently snipe the repairing SCVs and done a lot more damage there. But I mean, there's only so much that you can ask of a CPL player, and I think that prioritizing the accuracy of your build over getting the maximum amount of damage done with any kind of pressure that you're doing is a good decision, generally speaking.
well, I think everything that they should do should be perfect. Oh, by the way, Neblime's doing a good job with his defense here, making sure he doesn't get DT rushed.
Yeah.
But I think I saw Jitter in the chat earlier. Jitter, if you're watching this, I definitely see some weaknesses in Neblime's play that you could exploit. I'm just saying. We should actually talk some strategy in our CPL channel sometime.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I don't want to I decided to be a player instead of a coach for a reason, because I always feel like I feel like sometimes I'm like, let me tell you how it's done, and then like I play terribly, and so I'm like, I think I need to work on a few things, and especially my mentality, and like when I'm playing, just being cool and calm and doing things logically.
Because I feel like you have actually a fantastic StarCraft mentality, at least outside of the game. But then again, I don't have an opportunity very often to observe you whilst in the throes of passion with your passionate love StarCraft.
It's all of the frustrating things happen in StarCraft are frustrating to everybody. It's just when, things are when something follows a pattern, like you lose to this one thing, and you're like, okay, I know how to beat that. And then you play against it again, and you lose to the same thing, and you're like, how did I lose to it twice? I know how to beat this. And then you lose to it again, and then you start either one, you start doubting yourself.
Yeah.
And then two, you start to maybe get angry at yourself because sometimes the solution that you've come up with is not always the quote-unquote correct solution, but
Let's say optimal. I think it's a better word.
Yeah, let's say that would probably be the, because sometimes you do come up with a solution that is the solution, you're just not doing it correctly.
Yeah.
But when you fail at something like over and over again, like all of a sudden you start thinking like, is this the way I'm supposed to be doing this? And then you start making poor decisions
that don't need to be changed.
Yeah. And then you start making changes that don't make any sense. They don't follow any logic.
Mm-hmm.
And you can even watch your games afterwards and be like, why did I do this? Why did I do this? Because you're watching your own games, and from a logical perspective, it doesn't make sense. Because once you're able to actually,
stand back and look at it.
Yeah. You'll look at certain things on the map, like you just be like, if I just sent something to scout here, I would know that my opponent doesn't have, let's say you're getting zealot harassed a lot, and you're like, well, I gotta get this sunken colony to defend against zealots. I just keep getting zealot harassed. And then you start watching games and you're like, oh, well, I didn't need that sunken colony.
Yeah, I feel like
Or,
things sitting around that could have helped or whatever. I think one of the biggest challenges with trying to learn Brew War on your own at a low level, like once you get to a certain level and you understand timings and like when you should have X amount of drones and all these things, like you watch Jayun self-analyze his own replays and he goes, oh yeah, I see that I was down like 5 drones here. I should have had more drones at this point in time. But as a low-level player, everything is kind of a big mistake, right? And you don't know what you should have when. And a lot of players kind of deceive themselves into doing things incorrectly because they feel like they're attempting to do the correct thing but not executing correctly. And so then it feels like what they're doing doesn't work, even though it should work. They need to work on their execution. And I found myself deceiving, like especially with ZVP. I got in this rut, right, where I was playing 3-hatch Spire and going into 5-hatch Hydra, and I would just die. And I was like, what is wrong? Dude, Protoss is like broken. I'm playing 5-hatch Hydra and I'm losing the macro game in the mid game. There should be no way they're able to do this. What is going on here? And the reason was I was just getting supply blocked twice. Before like 70 supply. That's a ton of supply blocks before 70 supply.
well, there could also be a lot of other things on top of that.
But like, yeah. But you know what I'm saying, right?
Like
so
when you start off playing,
when
you start off playing ZVT or ZVP, I should say, you see a game where you watch some replays and you're like, oh, I know what to do. I'll get my big Hydra army, and then when they move out, I'll flank from this direction and this direction, this direction. I'll hit them with all these Hydras, and then everything gets stormed, and then your whole army dies, and you're like, well, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah, I think at these lower levels, it's so easy to deceive yourself into thinking something that's incorrect. Just due to the way that like your mechanics are and your ability to react to certain things, it's very easy to get on the wrong train of thought. And that's why I think CPL is kind of great, because you have coaches to tell you, that's not true. Like what you're thinking isn't true. Like I used to cut drones, for example, thinking that I needed Hydralisk earlier, but really I just needed to have a better SimCity, and then I wouldn't die to like the 5 zealot run by around 6:30.
Well, usually that's doesn't usually. I don't think you can get it that early unless you skip Stargate, but...
Yeah, exactly. It's a four gate speed.
Oh, okay. So this game has been a little bit slower paced than than some people might want, but a lot of decisions have gone into this game from both players.
Ooh, a nice recall.
There's a recall?
Yeah.
Where is it?
At the 3 o'clock.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, a very nice recall.
I actually hate brown against green, like those two colors against each other, because just.
Yeah, it's difficult to see on the map.
I would even rather see green on, like, the green is actually easier to see because it's brighter.
Like a very bright green, yeah. Brown is a terrible color.
I'm not even talking about teal, I'm just talking about green.
Yeah. But,
so
almost snipes the command center, gets some tanks, gets some decent SCV damage done here. Very well played. Also clears out a good number of turrets to the south side of the base that'll need to be reproduced. Otherwise, it'll be continually vulnerable to additional recalls. I think Neblime, though, has played this very well. Part of the reason why this hasn't been exactly the most action-packed game ever, is because Neblime has played this very safely, has been very good with securing his natural, and then, blocking off the the bridge here to the natural so he can take his third, and just been very surgical about his progress pushing out on the map and taking his time to take his bases and not taking any damage, and that's pretty great.
There's been very few opportunities for Laser Snipe to actually attack him before that Arbiter did the recall there. There's just been very, very few opportunities to actually attack Neblime efficiently. And
Snipe is making great decisions here as well, though. I mean, he's expanding
I didn't
quite
say he
well.
wasn't. Why would you accuse me of that?
I didn't accuse you of anything, all right, Nina? Gosh, you know, you don't need to be so hostile all the time. You don't say I always. That's so stereotypical.
You always do that.
With that shit. I don't do anything.
Every time.
Every time. Every time, Nina?
Every single time.
Literally every time?
Now, you know I don't like it pronounced like that.
I know, and I'm being a passive-aggressive little bitch right now because I'm angry at you. I'm mad.
You're not even being passive-aggressive. You're just being aggressive, and I don't like it.
That's true. I'm getting really. I'm sorry.
You need to calm down.
You know, sometimes I just get so excited when we're casting StarCraft. I just, the passion. That's all. But just, get those.
Rico!
Their own juices going.
Okay, I caught this one.
Yep. So this is a pretty good recall. Again, with the lack of the turrets at the bottom of this base here, he really was just open to this.
This is what parents need. If your parents are getting divorced, just do a recall and they'll stop arguing.
You're out all the time at night. I never see you, and I have to raise Johnny all.
Recall.
Oh, hey, there's a recall.
Who were you out with last night? Oh, there's Dragoons in the base.
That's too good. Yeah, I like this game a lot so far.
This is not okay. So a lot of people will go, "Wow, this is really bad," but actually, a lot of times when the Terran goes for this kind of turtley style into max push, there's a lot of times where you actually are gonna lose your natural. So
even
the right
sometimes
thing
your
to do
main.
here would be to, well, it's hard for the Terran to actually get up the ramp. You wouldn't think that, but what Snipe's got to do is re-rally all of his gateways to the top of the ramp, and then flank from the back.
Yeah.
And
he's doing a good job though. He's stopping the fourth with this very small army up here. So he's continuing to limit Neblime's economic growth. And in the meantime, he is adding production on to his other bases here, and I like this. I honestly love the refugee Protoss style. He could have, ideally would have more production.
I don't think I've heard that term.
So, refugee Protoss is a style of Protoss where Terran is constantly running around the map, sniping off bases, but the name comes from, Protoss kind of playing like a refugee, constantly fleeing to new bases and setting up production, and just eating the map up as far as resources go. So you're right. I mean, he was able to save the main base though. Laser Snipe not losing any of his production there. He does have production now set up again in the bottom left-hand corner as well, so he's going to be able to defend this as well. And in the meantime, he is stopping the Terran aggression on the map.
Did not actually even attempt to go up the ramp.
Yeah.
He sent like one vulture up there, and he was like, peace. But now he's splitting up, hitting up all the different bases that Laser Snipe has.
Yeah, this is an interesting decision. I like that he's taking out these undefended bases pretty easily, but he is losing some of the tanks for free basically here at the natural expansion of Laser Snipe's original base.
It's hard to deal with this when you're Protoss because normally if you don't... Oh, I guess there's a pause there.
Yep.
Because if Terran is heavy on vultures, then it's kind of hard to
get your army
counter
where
attack.
they need to be.
Like, but if there are a few vultures, you know, you can go speed zealots and, you know, clean up these little
Like hit squads.
forces here. So that vulture down there
DT's
did
not
like
taking tanks here.
got
The
7.
bottom. This is actually incredibly effective. We're getting like 4 tanks here for absolutely no losses. But I mean, Neblime being very aggressive on the map. He kind of gave up, I think, a bit too easily here at the 6 o'clock. But in the meantime, in the top
What do you mean
left-hand
by
corner.
he?
Oh, god damn it! Don't go back to that. It was
I literally don't know who you meant.
Oh, Neblime. So Neblime did have an attack force down at the bottom center of the map here, and he kind of gave up a bit easily. There's like an Arbiter and a Dragoon there that defended that versus
Well,
the army there.
there's a vulture down there that got 7 pro kills.
Oh yeah, and
it was just
more
sitting
units.
there getting pro kills.
I just feel like he could definitely still kill this base. Like I know he's going for this bottom left-hand base with his main army, but I feel like
I don't think he should
take
go
the
for
free
that
bases
base because
Yeah. I think you need to
I
hit the
agree with
soft
that.
targets first, and limit the
top-
Protoss's economic expansion.
top
or
left
economic
is falling
expansion.
though.
Yeah, it
What
is. It
happened
is.
at the 12? Why is he floating back? Is that a recall?
Small attack force. No, it wasn't a recall.
Oh,
It was just units on the map that walked over and pushed off the mining. But yeah, pushing his way up the ramp though into this bottom left-hand base here. This is pretty significant. Laser Snipe does not have the bank that he needs to be able to deal with this. He's had some weak probe production, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for him to see cotton.
But yeah, I think if there's something that Laser Snipe could have improved during this game is his probe production, because he did have a very nice presence on the map with lots of Nexi everywhere, and just didn't probe up quite fast enough. I'm not sure if it's because he was limited due to the fact that he felt like he needed to continue to produce units because of the pressure at his natural or what it was, but he definitely has had a lot of opportunity to be in a pretty dominant economic position and just unfortunately was unable to capitalize on that. But now he's in the position where he really just can't produce army because he doesn't have enough mining going on, or he didn't have enough mining going on. Never really built too much of a bank, and now his Terran opponent is up, 100, 140 supply here, and there's nothing that he's going to be able to do despite the fact that he was earlier in quite a nice position as far as map presence.
Oh, I thought for a second I was like, how are they launching Hellfire rockets at the Nexus?
Yeah,
There's an observer.
Science. Oh, it was? I thought because
There's an observer
I
over
think
the
pointing out
Nexus.
that he's shooting his
Yeah.
science vessel.
That's fine. You can shoot your own vessel.
But yeah, I mean, like, even with this little hit squad coming up here to deal damage to this fourth base, it almost doesn't matter. There's absolutely no mining going on for Laser Snipe. He's getting, I think, just a couple of probes down here at the 6 o'clock, doing some mineral farming. But at this point, Neblime has got essentially what is a maxed out army, and a huge bank. Like
Yeah,
he
if you
could
have
throw
zero-
away
well-
one and a half.
Well, Laser Snipe has the mining at the 6 o'clock, so that's going on. Oh, right, he says GG.
Man, Laser Snipe, I think,
Well,
was in a position for a little while to win that game, but Neblime,
I
it's
didn't
very-
want to rewind
very
it
safe.
because Blizzard's hasn't, like, fixed that yet, because if I rewind it, it's going to make you drop from the game. Or I think it will. But, yeah, if a Terran goes for a really quick third, on Fighting Spirit, that is, one way to, mitigate that advantage is to take a really quick fourth base.
You can even take a really quick fifth a lot of the time.
You can, but, you have to also think about, like, vulture harass and stuff. And so if you take a main base, you can you can block off that ramp really easily.
Yeah, with pylons.
Yeah,
Or
pylons.
a
They're
single
good.
dragoon. Alrighty.
It's
Well,
really
here we go.
it's really hard to saturate. It's really hard to saturate 5 bases that early.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially when you're starting at that point where Terran is pushing out, and you really need to be dedicating a lot of your resources to production at that point in the game.
Yeah, if they're going up to, they're doing like a 10 fact 2-1 push. I would even say that instead of taking, and this is just my opinion, instead of taking a 5th base, you get your macro gateways first, and then so yeah, you take
Secure
your
it
4th
once you're
base,
stabilized.
get your macro gateways, and then once you do your push, you basically engage them, and then you regenerate your army, and then you go from there.
But alright guys, so
Because it's going to be really
down here
hard
in
for
the
them to take. It's going to be really hard for them to take a 4th base and fighting spirit.
yeah, not die to the T1. But yeah, I mean Neblime now in the bottom left portion of the base here on Aztec, looking to do potentially well, I was gonna say a barracks expand because I thought this was, I didn't realize that, I wasn't thinking that this is a reverse ramp. But
Oh yeah, it's Aztec has that feature. For all who don't know.
I actually do like barracks expand a bit better on Aztec than with any map with a reverse ramp. I think barracks expands are a bit better because it's difficult to push off the dragoon pressure when you're down a ramp, you know, with your tank. It's so
Yeah,
funny because I don't
there's
really have to think about this kind of stuff as a Zerg player so much. I normally go, oh, reverse ramp. Well, I can 9-pool if I want, but that's like pretty much like the extent that I worry about reverse ramps. But it does change this matchup quite significantly.
I wouldn't say, well,
Range goons. I mean, you have to go siege expand if you're going to go factory, and siege is going
here's
to
a question. If a siege tank fires a shot at a unit on high ground, I literally don't know the answer to this. If a siege tank fires a shot onto high ground, oh, are we seeing a 10-15 gate? Yes, we are. Seeing a fucking 10-15 gate. Cause I was earlier I was gonna mention 10-15 gate, but I was like, nobody uses that build anymore.
Well, but it's a good option on Aztec because you know
Where
if
you
they're
go.
down the ramp, you're going to have a lot of dragoons to be able to do a significant amount of pressure. And if
Yeah,
they're up
so
the ramp, it's still a barracks expand. It's very difficult to hold.
I think he did it wrong because his got supply blocked for a second there, so it's gonna be a little bit late. But what you do is you add your second gate before your second pylon, and then you cut probes at 15, and so then you start getting your first dragoon, and then yeah, get your dragoons out a little bit earlier, and then
You'll be really annoying with them.
and it's particularly strong on maps where you don't have to fight uphill or have to fight against a ramp. Like, I remember Longinus was, like, notorious for this. So as you can see, he's got 3 tanks, or not 3 tanks, he's got 3 Dragoons for the Terran as a tank.
Yeah,
But he had to chase an SCV around. Normally
yeah.
you don't want to do
The dunes
that.
are a little slow.
Oh, he's gonna
I
follow
would
it up
assume
with
that
the
you'd want to
Citadel of
put as
Doom.
much pressure as possible right now. But I mean, they're not that delayed because if you saw like the Cybo just finished up the upgrade just a second
You know,
ago.
he should run
Oh,
past this bunker.
oh yeah, for sure. There's no tank behind it. Getting past this bunker would make this very easy to do a ton of damage. The tank would be stuck on the low ground defending as opposed to doing it on the high ground. But even still, I would dive in on this tank
Normally
right
when you
now.
see
Here
barracks
we go.
defense,
Here comes the dive.
it's usually 4 in the bunker. Oh, it's
Woo!
yeah, I got the tank. Okay.
Tank goes down, and that
Is
is a
it back up now?
huge loss for Neblime. I
Not as
always
bad
I
as it
always
could
feel
be. He's got
the
to start,
barracks go up.
Laser Snipe's gotta pick off some SCVs here in order to,
Make this worth it.
yeah, he's gotta break the bunker, otherwise another tank's just gonna pop out and enforce him back.
It's gonna have siege. Yeah.
And then he's gonna be behind in economy because he had to cut probes to get the Dragoons out.
But he didn't cut probes though, remember?
He did cut probes.
Oh, he did. Okay. But I mean, that's a pretty nice little hit there. Did siege finish up? Yeah, it must have, right? Because he has to have been. Okay. Alrighty. Well, one tank and a whole bunch of mining time lost. I think that the SCV management could have been a little bit better as far as this. But oh my gosh, another
he's gonna
dive
go and
in.
get the tank.
There's only 2 Marines in this bunker right now. It's not enough to.
Oh,
to
the
be
black.
able to...
Well, he's got 2 Dragoons in the base. Neblime says GG. So he didn't even wanna. He didn't even wanna mess with that. Although you gotta know. Actually, you know what? Before I tab out. Okay, there was yeah, there were DTs coming. There was actually a DT out.
Yeah.
I don't think Neblime knew about that, but
it would have been over.
it would have been bad.
Yeah, no academy, no engineering bay.
He did have engineering bay.
Did he?
Yeah, it was just like in the top. It was in a weird spot. It was like top right corner of the base.
Oh yeah. I saw it on the mini map on the stream.
Did I?
Even still, though, getting
Yeah,
a turret up with goons in your base would be pretty difficult.
Yeah, I didn't know if all the Dragoons would have gotten the base, but the clincher was probably that he was really low on money from having to repair the bunker, and so he would have had to defend with just SCVs for a really long time. Probably didn't want to do that.
Alrighty, well, our boy Laser Snipe down here in the bottom left-hand corner, bringing it to game number 3. We've taken a W with a nice 10-15 Dragoon. I don't want to say all in. That's not the right word. Timing? Just say build.
It's definitely
Nice
a timing
10-15 build.
attack.
But yeah, very well done. Nicely executed.
It would have been all in if he pulled all his probes to go and attack as well.
That would have been dope. Should have done it, dude. But yeah, well played for that second game there. We're going to game number 3 on match point. In the top right hand corner, having the blind. The very much improved and methodical player. I actually really like how he plays. I like safe Terrans, honestly.
Yeah, I
Terrans
do
are
too.
difficult to play against.
You hear that
late game.
kicks?
If you can hit that 2-1 timing, it's so hard for so many Protest players. No one's gonna hit it like Flash hits it, but like really, if you can execute it at a comparable level to the skill level of the players you're playing at, it's very difficult. Ooh.
I'm not gonna. I guess I'm not eating hamburgers or tacos. I had to cook burg.
Tacos.
But I didn't. I know I gotta cook
Make
that
those
meat
sloppy
though
joes,
because.
girl.
No, I don't want sloppy joes. I bought the cheese. I bought the tortillas. Did I buy beans? I got the rice. I got the potatoes. It's all ready to go.
I used to make burritos a lot for lunches at work because they're really easy to take or whatever. And so I set up like
Yeah. A lot easier than
5 little
beef
Tupperware
stroganoff.
things, and I would just like meal prep them. So like every morning I just wake up, scoop here, scoop there, bam, burrito. 5 minute lunch, easy peasy.
Oh, I know what he was doing. On this map, this is actually a common spot for proxy gates on this map. So if you're Zerg or Terran and you're concerned about that, you have to just scout towards your third. Because the middle is not buildable.
Talking about the mineral only.
Yeah. That's usually where the proxy gates are going to be. And normally, I used to see a lot of 12 necks on this map because of the rush distance. You can usually pull it off, but Laser Snipe's just gonna go, it's gonna go, one gate goon. One gate goonie.
I like that. This natural is much more easily expanded to, I think, than on Aztec.
Terran,
I think the 1015 was a really good call on Aztec though. I think a very well picked build order.
oh yeah, I've recommended it to people, but I usually don't see it, like these days, for some reason, for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to work out that well. I think it's just because, I think it's just because, like, Terrans tend to build, like, Terran used to go, like, siege expand a lot back in the day, and
Yeah.
so it was really good against, like, siege expand.
Yeah, because
And
they'd have a hard
it
time
would,
pushing up against that on that ramp. Oh man, I unmuted the stream. I didn't realize that my mic filter was so. I sound like I was like underwater or something.
oh dear.
Weird. Alrighty, so everything getting off to a pretty standard start here. Nothing too crazy. Um, you know, I honestly kind of find a little funny is I don't believe we see too many FDs in CPL from the streams that I've watched, and I just think that is such a powerful build order. Like, so often do you see newer players just get totally destroyed by FD. Um, I'm honestly quite surprised that more talented players aren't playing it right now. Oh, excuse me.
Um, it's kind of, I think it's because 28 next has become like the new meta, whereas you know 21 next used to be the meta build, and it would die to strong FT a lot, but then Protoss started going 28 next, and that seems to deal with it pretty well. So I don't know. I think that's probably the reason you don't see it too much of it these days. And of course, it's really bad. If Protoss goes like double gateways, you can't really put any pressure on.
Yeah,
So you have to
you
like,
just die on your way over.
well, you don't really die. You just have to put mines down and then just go back to your base. So you can still do it. It's just that when you go fast, or not fast, strong fake double, normally you delay your expansion a little bit. So
Yeah, if you're getting nothing done, then you're behind a little. So how do you feel about match point for this map or this matchup? Because the mineral only third position
I kind of
seems
feel
to
like
favor Protoss a little.
yeah, it kind of does. Also because the map is long, uh, like all your bases are going to be in a vertical line across one of the halves of the map. And because of that, it's actually really easy to do drops as an attacker because your opponent the opponent that's being dropped has to defend so much.
Surface area.
Yeah, there's such a long area that you have to make sure to cover. So it's also good for recalls, and so I like seeing players do stuff like 12 necks into 2-base arbiter. Because usually when you take the base at the top of the map, you either have to pylon it off, which makes it hard for you to get units in there, or you have to babysit it, which isn't good either because there's two different
You can get pushed
entrances.
somewhere else.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to defend vulture harass on this map when you have like all those different areas you have to defend, because there's I mean, you can defend all your areas, but then you're sort of like giving up map control by being paranoid of vultures. So there's different ways to deal with that.
So Neblime opting for a 5-rack strategy here.
Those are factories, my dear.
Or you know what I mean, 5-fac. Anyways, I'm normally not a real proponent of 5-fac. I think that Protoss has gotten really good at defending the 5-fac push.
Last time I talked smack about 5-fac, I was like, it's not that great of a build, and then the Terran player ended up like destroying the other person with it. I was like, oh.
Yeah. Okay.
I was like, oh damn.
I still, I still think though that
it's good.
That single anecdotal time that it didn't work out for you, like I don't know if that totally negates the fact that I don't think it's that strong of a build.
Completely negates it.
Protesters are just good at defending it now, especially the higher you get. I think in CPL you could definitely do a lot of work with a 5-fac. And I think especially on this map specifically, because it's hard to get your third third base.
Oh, never mind, I don't need that. Okay, so the way 5-fac works is the reason that it works actually just comes down to gateway timing. So the Protoss takes a third base before they build their gateways, then it's not gonna work. Or wait, what? Or will it work? Did I say that backwards? I think I said it backwards.
Yeah,
it will work. It will work if
they take their Nexus first.
The vultures are getting in. So
this is a pretty big whoopsie here.
Like 2-base ARB, obviously you're on 2 bases, so you're gonna get your gateways, you're gonna get your tech, and so you're gonna have the gateways necessary to defend against a 5-fac.
Oh man. Laser Snipe demolishing these tanks with just some really nicely placed zealot bombs, dragging some mines, and now just getting the last 2 with just a good old laser sword punches. Wow.
Ooh,
I mean,
nice. You got rid of the vultures.
Some very strong damage done by the vulture run by. Obviously, we're on a pretty low probe count at this point, but having all of your entire army as a Terran player get destroyed is pretty painful.
He's up 30 supply.
Yeah.
That's actually really encouraging. Because the way he was talking it down in chat, it's like, oh no, don't watch this series. I was like, oh man.
Well, not only is he up 30 supply, but this is versus, only one machine shop. So that tank count is reset, and it's going to take a very long time for those tanks to continue to build up to a point where he's able to threaten the Proton again. You basically got
Yeah.
one siege defending each base here. You got the high ground one over here on this little stage protecting this gigantic ramp with little vultures, and then one, protecting the tiny ramp up to the natural, and that's pretty much all there is on the map right now as
Small
far as tank
problem.
goes.
Small problem, though. There's no way to defend against vultures at Laser
mineral
Snipe's
only?
third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And,
mean,
like, his
some
natural
cannons
is,
would
like,
fix that up.
cannons.
Oh, no
All we
forge
have
though.
to do is one word, cannons. Oh. Well, I guess that vulture run by deflected itself.
Deflected itself. Meanwhile, some decent harass from the Dragoon army here, trying to poke at this mineral-only third base for Neblime. I would really love to see them just run in here and snipe these two tanks. There is one Goliath. Goliath's not too threatening to Dragoons overall, though. They take a very long... Goliath not too threatening to Dragoons. They take a long time to do, pretty significant damage to Dragoon. So I feel like taking out these two tanks would make this base pretty easy pickings right now. Yeah, and this is the issue now.
Probably expecting arbiters, but no arbiters yet. There's our forge.
I think this is the big issue, is that you're really spread too thin right now as Neblime. Like, defending this base is going to be really difficult. Like, the supplies are really pretty even, right? But I feel like this third is going to go down pretty quick here. Cannon's still not made now at the third base of Laser Snipe, though. And again, just vultures getting in here over and over and over and dealing damage.
What's this? Oh, it's Stargate.
But here we go. I mean, we should be seeing an assault here, right on the third base of Neblime. Second here.
Like to see shuttle here, but
yeah, it would make this attack against these tanks much better. The SCV pull wouldn't be nearly as effective.
He should just pull the Dragoons back.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, he's losing a ton for just two tanks. But reinforcement waves now should be able to push this off. Yeah, definitely not. That was like his whole army.
No.
Man, these attacks from both sides not really going quite as ideally as either player would like. Very back and forth so far, but now Laser Snipe is on supply parity and equal expansions here. So Neblime doing a very good job stabilizing this game, and going to be able to put himself into an economic lead if he can just clean up this these reinforcements.
Well, the good thing though is that actually I don't know. Neblime has quite a bit of extra gas, so mining from a mineral base is not any bad.
Yeah, not at all. He's got a great SCV count.
I would say like probably would want. I think Laser Snipe might be. He might have gotten into that. Like I'm about to break this. It's got nothing left. I can get this sort of.
He is breaking it though now. I mean, he has units there.
Yeah. Okay. It has left. I was like, is he gonna get this? Is he not? Just for a second there, I was like, I don't know if he's gonna get this, but gotta control his stuff. You gotta control your stuff.
I've gotten that tunnel mode vision so often though. And then I find like later there was like a third base somewhere. Like the top left hand corner, there's like 8 cannons defending it. I'm just like, oh my. I should have just made drones. It's such a hard feeling to, like to really feel like there's almost nothing on that low ground that you should be able to break into this. And that SCV pool really just messes you up. But he's doing, I think the continued aggression here is well advised. I mean, he very much has been able to defeat like all of the tanks that were defending this, and so there's no real threat anymore to the army. And doing just now forcing the liftoffs. Great, man. Laser Snipe is still behind on supply, but I think a lot of that actually was SCV advantage for quite some time. Because if you look at the basic, Laser Snipe isn't exactly the healthiest economically right now. But he is taking the top left fourth, and forcing that liftoff a bunch of times was quite nice for him.
Um, in some ways, I guess. Just, okay, so here's why I'm, cautiously, saying that. It's because as Protoss, if you're Protoss and you want to keep an advantage, you just need to have,
Oof, shuttle going down.
you need to be able to make it so if the Terran moves out of their base, they get punished, right? So, if you don't have very many units, you send units in like 3 at a time, or 2 at a time, or 4 at a time, they get killed over and over and over again, then what ends up happening is maybe your attack got done what it needed to do, but it took so much, it was so inefficient that you end up with a tiny little army, and then your opponent can move out onto the map at a
Yeah,
critical
rolls,
time
yeah.
when you need map control. And so that's kind of what's happening here. Neblime is able to
Yeah.
take this high ground, which is going to allow him to take that the command center on the bottom right. Now it's still going to be threatened by. It's still gonna be threatened by whatchamacallit, recall. But if Laser Snipe does a recall, Laser Snipe does a recall, Neblime can go counter.
Yeah. I think I would say in this series so far, maybe one of the biggest weaknesses that I'm seeing with Laser Snipe is his probes. He just always seems to be pretty low on probes. I don't know necessarily. I think a lot of it had to do with the excellent vulture harass that Neblime has had going on for a large portion of the early game. Because as you can, if you look, we're not talking oversaturation on like any of these mineral lines here. And you know, another vulture run by gets a lot of probe damage done at the top left hand corner, and he's just constantly like really fighting to keep any kind of economic advantage in this game. And in the meantime, Neblime may be losing a lot of units here and there, and has gotten his tank count reset a couple of times, but he's always been on this incredibly healthy SCV count. All of his bases have been almost to the point of oversaturation as far as SCV goes, and he's just been able to produce tons of units. And now that he's in a position where he's stabilized, he's going to totally hit a very powerful timing and just roll over his opponent here.
Well, maybe.
I mean, I definitely feel like this is going to happen here. We're on even supply right now.
Almost, but at the same time, like, you know, you gotta think that recalls are gonna do some damage. But I'm watching this drop here on the left side.
It was kind of a funny route for sure.
This is actually a good idea, because if you are a Terran and you, yeah, it's gonna be hard to like actually. Oh, I can Zealots can get there. That's cute. So I had a friend who was playing PvT, and he's doing PvT on Python. And so in Python, the third base at the bottom, or at the top left corner and the bottom right corner, are really, really, really open. So if you take another main, that's really easy to defend, because you just have one little ramp. So to defend against vultures, he just built pylons around the ramp, and he just got harassed to death with drops, because he couldn't actually get into his own base.
Yeah, that sounds really annoying. Alrighty, well, Neblime now taking his 5th base in the bottom center of the map here at 6 o'clock. I mean, Laser's not really in a position to harass that too much, other than with potential, like maybe potentially a recall here.
You
He
could do
can't be really
you could do
splitting
a
on.
10 centimeter recall.
It'd be so good. What he really needs to do is just get his zealots and his dragoons to be doing, you know, a bunch of squats so they can hop over that wall and get that fat
That's
booty dough.
you can't do that in this game. Oh, recall! Oh, he gets it in.
Yeah, that's surprising. I mean, there's a very large turret field here. Yeah.
It was okay.
Well, I mean, that specific spot, like anywhere else, you're going versus like just like a vertical line of turrets. But there you had a nice staggering. So he's like flying into like 6 turrets right there. Oh my gosh, this tank with the D matrix taking forever to die.
It's gonna take a while for Neblime to actually reinforce this. And this is why this map is just so notorious for being drop friendly. It's gonna get the armory. Yes, he will get the armory. So the recall did its job. It kept the Terran at bay. So what he needs to do now is just follow suit with something. Looks like we got another Arbiter going towards the top.
Yeah, not a bad spot. I mean, we do have science vessels here. I would assume just trying to be ready here with an EMP. But
it's really the thing about EMP is it's one of the few spells that can actually miss in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
how much mana?
Oh my
energy
god! He has to kill his own.
I didn't realize that was probe tight. This looks like a game of Centipede, man. Like the way that they move.
It does. Well, this recall is definitely going to happen.
Oh yeah. Only 2 turrets here.
And okay, so Neblime's response is going to be to counter. So we'll see how this goes. And I think I don't think it's a bad choice. I just think
Yeah.
I just think that ooh, I just don't know. I just don't know because they got Protoss stuff on the big platform, and then we have a bunch of stuff at rallied to his natural, so he could
Get sandwiched pretty hard.
pincer.
I don't know though.
Sandwich.
I mean, they're not the widest attack angles from either side here. There's a pretty massive number of units here, and then as far as defending the main, the factories make it very easy for the tanks to stay safe behind this little tank wall here. He doesn't really need the CC. The armory isn't upgrading or anything like that, so he's not at risk at losing too much more than just his supply depots at the top of the map here.
Laser Snipe's gonna go. He's got to get this done.
Oh man, this is I would have liked to see him push like,
oh my god.
further up.
This Arbiter, it just got to 100.
Oof. But yeah, look at these zealots getting just shut out.
Oh my gosh. So the tanks are right on top. The zealots can still do damage here. Just they're gonna this is gonna happen. So the recall technically is still happening because there's a Dragoon. But
oh yeah. In an Arbiter, don't forget, man. Arbiters do a ton of damage. Kappa. Why didn't they just give it Arbiter the Dragoon gun, right? Like, why is it weaker?
Because it diverts all of its psychic energy into its abilities, and so it can't it can't use its psychic energy to power a phase disruptor. That's canon now. Oh, look at this. 12 o'clock.
Yeah, that's cute. I like that. Neblime doesn't seem to like to get comfortable until he's got the W, right? Like in this position, I would just be in cleanup mode, right? I'd just be like hands off the keyboard, go get a beer, maybe eat a popsicle or something.
I would. It depends. I would, like, he doesn't have that much money left. Like, he's mining from one base, and the blind. Well,
you got 3K, 2K.
You see, yeah, that doesn't last very long. If you're not mining, it's not that good.
I don't know. I mean,
Velociraptor.
I see what you're getting at. I mean, there is some production at the top left, and if Protoss had kept the bases that he wasn't harassing right now, yeah, there's definitely potential to come back. So I guess I see what you're saying, but that's what I'm saying. Like I will throw games a lot because I am like, I broke the main, I win, right? But then, you know, they throw it in some production, and I get really lazy, and I get really lackadaisical about it, and let an opponent come back into the game. And that's why I was saying, you know, I really like how Neblime does, you know, he had, you know, 3 separate armies attacking expansions, you know, making sure that his opponent isn't getting back into the game by you know, being left alone for too long.
Oh, Jitter's watching. Jitter, are you gonna play in the playoffs? Cause Mr. Jitter, I think you can get this guy. I really think Jitter can beat Neblime.
Oh, I think so as well. EMP'd all the zealots.
It's smart.
Yeah, I mean, it's just how often do you actually see that happen?
Quite often actually. Just normally the armies are in motion as it happens, but in this case they were just kind of waiting around to get orders.
Well, Laser Snipe just getting his last base cleaned up here.
I can definitely feel some frustration coming from Laser Snipe because he was not in a bad position this game. But the end result obviously was not what he was hoping for. Alright, so that's the end of the game. You can stop playing now.